The swamp has a drain, Ian?
I'm not saying it does.
No, it doesn't, though. It's not even a swamp. Let's talk about what it really is.
What is it really?
It is a drainless, gold-plated hot tub.
A Korean summit, the latest from old Blighty. And Bibi Netanyahu goes PowerPoint, big on Iran. This is your GZERO world. I'm Ian Bremmer, and it's here in Times Square. It's kind of steamy. We're going to bring you Anthony Scaramucci. He's got plenty of heat. He was White House communications director for a serious 11 days, and he really wrung the most juice he possibly could out of every single one of them. We'll be sitting down and talking in just a moment. Also have your puppet regime. President Putin shows his vulnerable side. But now, your world this week. Yet more diplomacy between North and South Korea, a historic summit. Both sides meeting on both sides of the border, then a private tete-a-tete for 30 minutes. It went well. The North and the South Koreans both understand that Trump's America First policy requires them doing a South Korea and North Korea first policy, which they've now done. They promised that they're going to have bilateral peace by the end of the year, and that they'll even support denuclearization, though of course no one agrees on exactly what that means. Ultimately, President Trump's efforts at threatening preemptive strikes against North Korea if they don't back down from their nuclear program is a lot weaker when the North and the South are working out peace, and the Chinese are pretty happy with those developments. Doesn't mean Trump doesn't get credit. Indeed, if what Trump is really concerned about is not denuclearization, but what he said originally, which is the North Koreans having ICBMs that can hit the United States, the Continental 48, I think he might be able to get that kind of a peace plan and announce support. For now, it looks like the U.S.-North Korea meeting will almost certainly happen. The Americans have demanded virtually nothing from the North Koreans. The North Koreans have offered a fair amount. In addition to suspending their tests, it also looks like American political prisoners in North Korea are about to be set free. If all of that occurs, it's not that hard to get from here to a place where Trump can say, I succeeded where no other president did. He'll have to back away from full and verifiable denuclearization, but the people banging on that are less about Trump than the Secretary of State, the Ambassador to the United Nations. Ultimately, they can get in the line behind the American president. I'm feeling pretty good about where North Korea is right now. And now to the United Kingdom, where I landed this week to headlines blaring the resignation of Rudd. Rudd resigns. She is the former Home Secretary in the United Kingdom, and Theresa May, the Prime Minister, is losing cabinet members faster than President Trump is secretaries here in the United States. She's also even less popular. Not only the opposition, but even her own party thinks it's shambolic at this point. Everyone talks about Brexit in the UK pretty much all the time. It's worse than talking about Trump in the United States. And the problem is that not only are they trying to negotiate a deal with the most complicated supranational organization in the world, the European Union, but also they're trying to do it not knowing what they actually want. The divisions within the Conservative Party under Theresa May are massive, particularly right now about whether or not they want a customs union, which they have to resolve, because if they don't, they're not going to get a deal on the kind of border there'll be between Ireland and Northern Ireland going forward. This is not set up to go well. But perhaps the biggest problem is this populism in the United Kingdom, just like there is in the United States and across continental Europe. The Conservative Party, the Labour Party are actually moving farther to the right and to the left. What does that mean? It means waiting in the wings in the Labour Party to become Prime Minister is Jeremy Corbyn, 72 years old. A lot of people in the UK refer to him as a bad version of Tony Blair, but actually he's a good version of Trotsky. And that is a real problem for the United Kingdom, because it means that if he becomes Prime Minister, as looks increasingly likely, he's going to nationalize a lot of industry. He's going to squeeze the golden goose, all the people and the financiers in London that are actually making the United Kingdom comparatively wealthy. Look, the United Kingdom right now has the worst growth trajectory economically of any of the European economies. If Corbyn becomes PM on the back of the UK already leaving the EU in a messy way, this is going to get a lot worse. Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu loves his show and tell. You remember the bomb graphic? You remember the piece of the Iranian drone. Now we have PowerPoint. He has just discovered it. I think this is 5,000 point. Iran lied. He's not talking about the Iranian nuclear deal and the implementation. He's instead talking about their research beforehand on nuclear weapons, which they've always said they weren't doing. Turns out they were. Israeli intelligence got a hold of enormous caches showing that the Iranians indeed lied. This does undermine them. The Iranians are upset. Hardliners pushing really hard against themselves, really, as a consequence of that. So what's going to happen? Trump has a self-imposed deadline of May 12th on whether he will rip up or not the Iranian deal. He's been saying he's probably going to do it. Been meeting with the French and the Germans, they say he's probably going to do it. If I was advising Trump, I would tell him, don't do it. Give him some more time. There's no urgency. If you say, I'm going to give a couple more months, I've heard my French and German allies. Let's see if they can actually get us something better on ballistic missiles by the Iranians, on their support for terrorist organizations. If they come back in 2 months, they do. You're a hero, you got a better deal. They come back and they don't. You say, I gave them a shot, they couldn't do it, now I'm ripping it up. That's your world this week. Now, let's go to puppet regime. We have Putin's inauguration coming up in just a couple of days, and Putin is going to show his vulnerable side. It's Queer Eye for the Putin guy. Has he changed? Not so much. You'll see. Here's puppet regime.
Okay, guys, are you ready?
The original 3 terms, he was fighting for legitimacy. Now, he's fighting forever.
I am trying to get a little bit out of comfort zone. I want him to look at his diet and imagine a different kind of life.
Yeah, balance. Yeah, symmetry. You got this. I know you've got this. I see the man he is
And the man he was born to be.
They will show me how good my life can be if I just care.
Democrat or autocrat, common thread that holds all humans together? We just want to be loved.
It's saying, I love you.
I want Russia to be excited about new me.
Okay, guys, here I go.
You just look more like yourself.
Yes, new me is even more like me than old me. See you in 2024, bitches. Public regime!
North Korean problem, which was an intractable problem. Make a prediction.
And I'm with Anthony Scaramucci, managing partner of Skybridge Capital, also founded the Scaramucci Post, and of course for 10 glorious days.
11.
11 glorious, 11, I'm the count. I love to count.
The guy's trying to jip me. It's like unbelievable. I mean, you know.
Well, you want that extra day.
Why not? It's like 9.1% of my federal career. Why would you jip me out
That's
of it, right?
fair. White House Communications Director.
It was a pretty productive 11 days. I mean, let's face it. But I mean, as in the process of firing people, I got myself fired, but that happens in Washington.
You did more in 11 days than many people I know in years.
Yeah, well, look, one of the weird things about the whole thing is I didn't realize the symbiosis between some of these, like, political hacks that work either in the White House or up on the Hill and their symbiotic relationship with the press, where they just, like, leak like sieves and they use that information as currency inside of Washington. And
Everyone in it for themselves.
people are like, okay, I got to stab this guy's eyeball out before he stabs my eyeball out.
You are also the only man I know that's brought autoeroticism as a concept to the White House.
Okay, you've never said a curse word, Ian?
I have.
Look into the camera.
With
You've
you.
never said a curse word?
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
see, he's said a
Absolutely.
curse. This guy
Yeah.
curses, okay?
I do.
Most people curse. You think I'm the only guy that curses? Yeah. You think John Kelly doesn't say curse words? I mean, he's a Marine, right? Whatever I said about Bannon in terms of the autoeroticism, which obviously he can't do, you know that, okay? So, but what I said about him is absolutely true. I mean, one of the things I've been decent at over my 30-year career is I can identify and evaluate talent pretty quickly. And I can see where people's motivations are pretty quickly.
Tell me about Trump himself. So all these people that really just can't stand Trump, you know him, you decided to work with him. What are they wrong about?
Okay, first of all, the president is a very gregarious, charming guy. Okay, now, some of your liberal friends or your establishment Republicans are like, you know, choking and they're blowing in a barf bag right now, me saying that, but way more thoughtful than they want to give him credit for. He's got way more common sense, but he also has a backbone, and so he's able to push an agenda or push ideas a lot like Reagan.
Now, I mean, obviously, we've seen this also, this charm has worked in his meeting with Emmanuel Macron. They clearly, the two men get along very well. Hasn't with some others, like Merkel in particular. What do you think that's about?
I'm not Angela Merkel's advisor, okay, but if I was her advisor, I'd say, hey, you respect this guy. He's 72 years old. He is the American president. He won a very hard-fought campaign. He earned the right to be the American president. And, you know, drop the tabloid nonsense and all that stuff that you hear and respect the guy. If you do that, you're going to go really far with him. Macron has decided to do that.
And Merkel has not.
I think Merkel has not. And so one is landing at Andrews and the other one's landing at Dulles. You know, and he's sending them a message too, right? You don't want to respect me. That's cool. I'm not going to respect you.
So the decision to go to Davos, you know, you and I know Davos very well, obviously. But Trump, of course, for a long time talking about the basin was, you know, if anything, opposed to the globalists, right? He did very well at Davos. The speech went well. The CEOs were very flattering. Do you, first of all, do you think that that was the right choice?
Totally. I mean, listen, that was also very misunderstood about the guy. That was because of Sloppy Steve, right? He was trying to position him away from quote-unquote globalism. He was trying to create this schism. The president is a multidimensional guy, and he's way more faceted than people want to give him credit for. And what I said, there's a duality to the president where he recognizes that he needs to engage in the global community. He needs to strengthen our alliances and put our adversaries on watch. But he also needs to be the #1 salesperson for America to talk about our economy and bring those international CEOs together like he did in Davos. And the flip side is he's got to be focused on the American worker. And so his message to President Xi or Macron or any of these guys, help me with the breadbasket of the United States because it'll be great for you, it'll be great for the world. And he brought the largest delegation that's been brought to Davos. And that's the president's antithetical thinking. George W. Bush wouldn't do it. He went to Sharm el-Sheikh. He wouldn't go to Davos. Barack Obama wouldn't do it because they didn't want to be perceived to be an elitist. But the president has a moniker where he's not an elitist, so he can go there. It's like Nixon going to China, right?
I get this, but if we've elected a person who specifically says, I'm going to drain the swamp, and one of the biggest domestic priorities appears to be,
The swamp has a drain,
I'm not saying it does.
No, it doesn't, though. It's not even a swamp. Let's talk about what it really is.
What is it really?
It is a drainless, gold-plated hot tub. Okay, now this is what these guys do, okay? They size you up immediately. It's like a Malcolm Gladwell blank exercise. They say, okay, can this guy be bought, unbought, bought, unbought? And so if you can be bought, they're like, hey, man, here's a cigar, here's a champagne bottle, get in the hot tub with me. If you can't be bought, they're like, okay, let's oppo this guy. Let's hit this guy in the head with a spike. We got to kill this guy. We got to get him off the playing field because he may do something that would be a disaster for us.
So he
may tell the American people
are
the truth.
Are a lot of people around Trump in the hot tub?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know, come on, you know that.
I know. That's why
It's
I'm asking.
very frustrating for the president. He's not in the hot tub. This guy lost $1 billion going down there. 100%. I mean, people boycotting his golf courses or, you know, taking the Trump Soho
name. Why put the cabinet in place? Why put the billionaires in? Why put the CEOs in? Why not actually, once you've won, why not actually walk the talk in terms of the people that are going to make decisions for the workers, for the average American?
Okay, but here's the problem, okay? You now have to get people. The barriers to entry to go to Washington are extremely high if you're a successful person. It's really designed for lawyers and lobbyists and academics to go work in Washington than it is for our nation's best business people.
So if you could actually advise the president right now to do something that would actually make a difference, something that's potentially doable, what would it be?
Well, it's not doable, but this is what I would recommend that he do. I would recommend that he impose mandatory voting in the society like they have in Australia.
In Australia, for example.
Yeah, 100%. It's okay. We're going to go to the
small fine, people show up.
We're going to go to the Australian model. We're going to go mandatory voting. They'll get 85% voter participation, and bam, you will liquefy and dilute the current system of extremists because these are products.
Okay? We seem to be moving the other direction. We're trying to find we're moving in the other direction, right? We're trying to find ways to disenfranchise people, make it harder for people to vote.
You know, some people say, well, that's a right-leaning thing that they're making it harder. I don't agree with that. The left has done a very good job hiding behind that. They don't want any more people voting than the right does. Because if you have a lower voter turnout and you have voter apathy, the jokers can stay permanently in power. Okay, so they don't want either side, if they're going to be brutally honest with the American people, say, look, we don't want anybody voting. Why would we want anybody voting?
The fact that the media is, you know, sort of in a constant state of apoplexy with Trump, and Trump also seems to relish that fight. Yeah. Do you think he's handling it well? Do you think it's been good for him?
Well, it's been very good for him. It's been very bad for them. I mean, because
he says it's good for them. He says they're making a lot of money, they get a lot of eyeballs.
It's good for them as it relates to ratings. It's bad for them as it relates to psychology because they're out of their minds. It's like a Greek tragedy. It's like watching somebody through their anger and frustration blind themselves and then cry in their own soup. I mean, it's sort of crazy. So if I were them, no one listens to me, which is fine, but if I were them, I would de-escalate. And frankly, if I was the president, I would de-escalate. There's no reason to have this level of hostility on either side. The president for 45 years had a great relationship with the media. There's no reason why he can't continue to have a great relationship with the media. I would like the president out of the corner of conservative media and once again back across the whole media spectrum, because he's a larger-than-life figure. He's a television star. You know, he had 15 years on a major network with high ratings. And I think he needs to do that to appeal his common sense wisdom to moderates and independents who probably still like him or pause and reflect and say, wait a minute, the economy's doing way better, tax cut seems to be working, he looks like he's solving the North Korean problem, which was an intractable problem. Make a prediction on your podcast, he'll solve the Iranian problem. And so to me, people look at that and say, that's really good. Let's get him out of his corner that he's painted in.
Of the people around Trump right now, who's the one or two or three that you would say, here's someone that I'm so glad is there fighting the good fight, defending the president?
Jim Mattis is one of them. Mike Pompeo's another. Mike's a phenomenal guy, you know. Steve Mnuchin's been a friend of mine for 30 years. He's a very smart guy, and he has a very good understanding of the president. He has a very good understanding of directionally where the policies should go to make the American workers prosper and to make American companies prosper. Remember, there's a synthesis, right? We can't split it. You know, that's what I hated about Bannon. We have globalists and we have nationalists. No, we don't. We have to have harmony between both groups, okay? And that's something that the president really understands.
Is a mooch only 11 days because you're fundamentally a populist?
No, I'm 11 days because I was reporting directly to the president, and when John Kelly got the job, he had to assert his militaristic military muscles and fire me.
I ask that though because
I'm not a populist.
Because given what you're saying,
I'm not a populist.
But given the fact that you are trying to fight for the common man at a time when you're saying that you know, everyone in there is in the golden hot tub, I mean, that kind of implies that the system is sufficiently broken that you just weren't going to make it for a period of time.
No. Populism always ends up as a failed concept, okay? Because at the end of the day, you have to integrate, you have to synthesize the establishment with the common cause of the American people. You have to create that synthesis. You can't be on one side or the other, okay? What's interesting about my life is that I grew up in a blue-collar family, and then I went to Harvard Law School, and I lived in these hedge fund salons and went to Davos with people like you and, you know, seen all the action at the top, right? You have to synthesize the two. You have to make both sides feel non-threatened, okay? One problem with populism is that it's too threatening to the established powers that are inside the system, okay?
Anthony Scaramucci, good to see you
here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
That's your show this week. Come back next week. GZERO World going to bring you Jonah Goldberg from the National Review. Fascinating guy. A lot to talk about. See you then.